Imagine a world lit not by switches or glowing screens, but by flame, steady, flickering, fragile. It is evening in a medieval town. Sun has long slipped below the rooftops, and the cobblestone streets are dim. Shadows stretch between timbered houses, and the faint scent of smoke drifts on the cold air. Here and there, small points of light shimmer behind shuttered windows. Candles, their glow breathing softly against the dark. Tonight, we are going to travel back into that world, to the quiet craft of those who made the light itself, the chandlers, candle makers of the Middle Ages. Their work was not glamorous. It was patient, repetitive, and often hidden from view. Yet it shaped the rhythm of medieval life, from the humblest cottage to the grandest cathedral. Let's begin, slowly, where the light begins, in the workrooms of the medieval chandlers. Imagine yourself in a small, narrow workshop at the edge of a medieval town. The air is cool, but heavy with scent, a mingling of melted tallow, beeswax, and smoke. The stone floor beneath your feet is rough and faintly slick from long use. Along one wall stand tall wooden racks, each lined with rows of cooling candles, their pale forms catching the weak light that seeps through a small, high window. In the center of the room, a great iron pot hangs above a slow fire. Inside, fat and wax melt together, forming a shimmering surface that reflects orange in the firelight. Beside it, bundles of flax and hemp wait to be twisted into wicks. The chandler moves quietly through this space, their sleeves rolled up, their hands scarred from years of heat and work. They dip the wicks again and again into the molten tallow. Each time, the candle grows heavier, thicker. Each layer cools and hardens before the next is added. And so the work continues, repetitive, rhythmic, almost meditative. The smell of tallow is not pleasant, sharp, and animal, but the beeswax, when available, offers something sweeter, something cleaner. In wealthy towns, beeswax is prized, glowing softly when lit and burning without smoke. Most candles, though, are made from tallow, rendered fat from sheep or cattle. It is plentiful, practical, and far cheaper. For the poor, light was a luxury. Many homes had only a few candles at a time, saved for feast days or long winter evenings. In monasteries and churches, however, candles were everywhere, flickering before altars, burning in the scriptoria, marking the passage of hours. The workday for a chandler begins early. They rise before dawn to collect materials from butchers, apothecaries, or wax traders. In the streets of medieval London, carts carrying animal fat rumble past as bells toll from distant churches. The chandler's apprentice may be sent to fetch new molds or to clean the racks where yesterday's candles cooled. Tools are simple: iron pots, wooden frames, lengths of cord, and sometimes stone or clay molds. But there is skill in every movement, in keeping the wax at the right temperature, in knowing when to lift and when to dip, in trimming the wick just so, to make the flame steady and long-lasting. The rhythm of this work becomes its own kind of song, the creak of rope, the drip of wax, the faint crackle of the fire. Outside, the town moves around it, unaware. Yet almost every household depends on these hands for the moments after sunset. When work must still be done, when prayers are said, when bread is broken by candlelight. As the day lengthens, the chandler's shop grows warm. Light filters through the smoke in hazy beams, and the air hums faintly with flies drawn by the scent of tallow. Sometimes neighbors stop by to buy candles, a few at a time, wrapped in rough cloth. Sometimes a priest arrives, ordering hundreds for an upcoming feast or vigil. By evening, the racks are full again. Dozens upon dozens of pale, imperfect cylinders, each one small, unassuming, yet vital. The chandler wipes their hands on a rag and leans back, listening to the faint ticking of cooling wax. Soon they will trim the finished candles, smooth their edges, and pack them into bundles. When night comes, their own light burns low. The irony is not lost that those who make the candles so rarely enjoy their glow. In small, smoky rooms, they eat by the dim light of their own craft, and the scent of their work clings to their clothes and hair long after the fire has gone out. The life of a candlemaker was not rich in gold or comfort, yet in a quiet way, it shaped the very texture of medieval life. The wax they melted by day gave form to the hours of others by night. And somewhere, perhaps just beyond the walls of this workshop, a church bell begins to toll its slow sound, echoing over rooftops, marking the hour of vespers. Inside, the chandler closes the shutters, and the world returns to shadow. The heart of medieval London, where narrow lanes wound between timbered houses and the smell of smoke lingered above the Thames, the candlemakers began to organize. By the 13th century, chandlers were no longer just humble artisans working in the dim corners of workshops. They were members of a growing and powerful guild. The Guild of Chandlers formed out of necessity. The work they did was essential, yet precarious. Tallow could spoil, beeswax was costly, and dishonest merchants often undercut prices with poor-quality candles that smoked and sputtered. To survive and to protect the integrity of their craft, chandlers gathered together under one name, a fraternity of light-makers, bound by oath and by shared labor. Imagine the guild hall on a damp winter morning. The members gather by candlelight, of course, the flames glinting off pewter cups and rough-hewn benches. The air smells faintly of wax and ale. Rules are read aloud: the width of a proper candle, the purity of wax, the price to be charged per pound. Apprenticeship terms are set often 7 years or more before a boy might call himself a master chandler. At the head of the hall sits the guild's warden, dressed in dark wool trimmed with fur. He records fines for impure tallow or short measures, and grants licenses for market stalls. The guild regulates trade, enforces quality, and represents its members before the city's officials. But it also provides community, a network of men who share both skill and struggle. In London, the Wax Chandlers' Company and the Tallow Chandlers' Company eventually became separate entities. The divide reflected more than just materials, it mirrored the divide between luxury and necessity. The wax chandlers supplied the church, the wealthy, and the royal household. Their candles burned in gilded holders and illuminated manuscripts. The tallow chandlers served the streets, the taverns, and the homes of ordinary people. Their candles smoked more, smelled worse, but were affordable to many. For a young apprentice, entry into the guild was a path to stability. He would live with his master, sleep above the workshop, and learn every stage of the trade, from rendering tallow to casting in molds. When his time was done, he might travel, offering his skills to monasteries or manors, till one day he could return and open a shop of his own. Over the centuries, the chandlers' guilds gained influence. Their wax was measured by the pound in the great markets of Cheapside. Their seals were recognized by city officials. And though they worked in shadows, their products filled the lighted spaces of the world. In times of crisis, during plagues, during shortages, the chandlers were vital. Candles were not luxuries then, but necessities. To read the Bible, to treat the sick, to mourn the dead. Their slow-burning light became the steady pulse of life continuing through hardship. And so, the Guild of Chandlers became one of the quiet engines of medieval urban life. Its meetings solemn, its members modest, but its influence reaching into every home and hall. As we leave the noise of the London market behind, the story widens out from the guild hall into the past again. Into the realm of what has been forgotten and what time has buried beneath stone and dust. Centuries later, archaeologists uncover fragments of this lost craft. Beneath monasteries, under the stones of castle kitchens, and in the soil of old towns, they find traces of wax hardened with age, candle molds made from clay, carved wooden wick holders, and the faint impressions of hands, preserved by accident by time. Imagine one such find beneath the cloisters of an abbey in France. The air below is cool and dry, thick with silence. Lanterns cast their glow over the rough stone walls, and there, among fragments of pottery and bone, lies a small conical mold. The residue within still bears the honeyed scent of beeswax, faint after 700 years. It tells of monks who once labored in near silence, melting wax in bronze cauldrons, pouring it carefully to form candles that would burn before the altar. The marks left by chandlers are humble but enduring. On the underside of a cathedral step, the mason's chisel might share space with a wax chandler's scratch, initials, symbols, or the rough outline of a flame. These were not for decoration, but remembrance, a quiet way of saying, I was here, my hands made this. Some churches hold secrets of acoustics and light, their designs subtly shaped to amplify the sound of chanting and the shimmer of candle glow on stone. Candle soot marks still cling to ceilings and niches, where centuries of smoke collected in soft layers, each one the ghost of a flame long gone. Even the wax itself holds stories. In laboratory studies, beeswax can reveal the plants the bees fed upon, lavender, heather, or meadow herbs, offering a faint echo of the medieval countryside. In this way, each candle becomes a vessel of its time, part earth, part labor, part devotion. Beneath the bustling streets of old cities, tunnels and workshops sometimes appear during construction, long-forgotten rooms where chandlers once rendered tallow, their fire smothered centuries ago. To step into one of these chambers is to feel the weight of quiet industry, the heat, the smell, the rhythm that once filled the space, a rhythm we can only imagine now. And as we rise from these ruins, we return once more to the surface, to the living world of contrast, where light and shadow meet in the hands of both the humble and the mighty. Picture two candles burning side by side. One flickers in a monastery chapel, its beeswax pure, its flame steady and golden. The other burns in a tavern, thick with smoke, its tallow melting unevenly. Both give light, yet they belong to very different worlds. In monasteries, candle making was an act of devotion. Monks tended beehives, gathered wax, and molded candles for prayer. Every step, from melting to trimming, was accompanied by silence or song. Candles illuminated manuscripts, guided weary travelers into chapels, marked the sacred hours of matins, lauds, and vespers. In the soft glow of beeswax, the divine seemed a little closer, the shadows less deep. In the towns below, merchants worked by the same flame, but for trade, not worship. Their stalls glowed at dusk as they sold their wares, weighing and counting, their hands slick with tallow. Candles became commerce, a bridge between necessity and luxury. To light one was to spend coin. To buy many was a sign of wealth. In great halls, nobles dined under chandeliers of wax. Dozens of flames reflected in polished silver, banishing the dark. Servants trimmed wicks constantly to keep the light even. The smell of beeswax mixed with wine and roasted meat. Far below, in the narrow homes of workers, a single candle flickered as families ate in silence. The difference was not only in brightness, but in meaning. For monks, the flame represented faith and continuity. For merchants, it was livelihood. For commoners, it was endurance, the ability to hold back the night, even briefly. And yet, in every corner of medieval Europe, the candle was a shared constant. Its slow burn marked the pace of life. Births, prayers, vigils, and deaths all unfolded in its light. When we think of the Middle Ages, we often imagine darkness, but the truth is gentler. It was a world of small, persistent light, handmade, carefully tended, quietly necessary. The chandlers of that age rarely saw their names recorded. Their craft was not one of fame, but of patience. Each candle was a simple offering to time to another day of work, another prayer, another meal shared. Imagine the final moments of their day. The last candle of the workshop burns low. The flame trembles, then steadies. The chandler leans forward, breathes gently, and the light goes out. The air is still, the darkness complete. And for a moment, across centuries, all is calm again. Only the faint scent of wax, the memory of warmth, and the thought of light returning with the dawn.